Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the House of Footy YouTube channel, the home of your footy fix. I'm your host, Ari Stamatakos, and today, with the AFL Finals fast approaching, we're here with a finals preview video. I'm joined with regular contributor on the YouTube channel, Brandon Patane. Brandon, how are you, my friend?
Very good. Thanks for having me. Exciting times.
Thank you for joining me. And we have a channel debutant with Cal. Cal, my friend, how are you? And welcome to the House of Footy YouTube channel.
Thank you, mate. Yes, I'm excited. I'm excited. It's going to be a fair bit of fun, I feel.
Yes, it is. And just to caveat this, obviously, for those regular watchers would know that Brandon and myself are both Carlton supporters. We're joined by a third bagger for this video. So when we do eventually touch on Carlton's potential finals journey, maybe a bit biased, maybe not. I guess we'll see. But it's bound to be, and it's threatening to be a very entertaining, fun or month of football. A bunch of teams all within the fight. Pretty much all the top four have been premiership fancies at some stage throughout the season. You've got the likes of Carlton who have made a late charge. Sydney made a late charge, and then as well as the Giants and then the Saints who have just been hovering around. So, Brandon, I'll go to you first. What are your just brief thoughts across the first week of finals in particular, but also just the finals as a whole? Because this is probably going to be one of the more entertaining first week of finals we've had in a long time. Personally, I don't see a lot of games going. I don't see a lot of smashings in the first week, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's exactly that. I think we've got ourselves four games that are, firstly, unbelievable games of football, and secondly, games that could go either way, every single one. And they're so hard to predict. And I think that's the beauty of it. We're really going to be treated to a great month of football. And obviously, the three of us, we know how we want it to go. But yeah, it's going to be an exciting month for a neutral, and I can't wait to see how it goes.
Yeah, it's been threatening to be a very, very exciting and entertaining month of football. Ever since really the halfway point of the year, we all thought that this month of September will be very entertaining. Cal, I'll throw to you now. What are your thoughts, emotions, feelings heading into this first week as a whole? And then, of course, the final series, which could throw up some surprises. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, as Brenner was alluding to, it is going to be a really, really good month of football. There are games all in the first week that are, they're too close to call at the moment. You got the Pies and the D's. Who knows what's going to come out of that game? The Lions and Port at the other end of the double chance. That's another nail biter, and it's such an important game setting up the home prelim. And the same can be said for the two elimination finals. They're so important and they're so close. Like this is one of the best finals we've seen in recent memory. It is going to be a cracker.
Yeah, I think another thing that I noticed throughout the week is that we're getting a lot of like new and unique matchups. Like there's no Hawthorn. Obviously, Hawthorn probably weren't threatening, but they've been a mainstay finals for quite a long time. No Geelong, Sydney did scrape in, but there's no Richmond. So there's a few new teams who have popped up. Obviously, St Kilda, not many people thought would be here. The Giants, Carlton, halfway through the year weren't looking likely. So a lot of fresh and unique matchups. If Probably we obviously all know the game that we're looking forward to the most, obviously being three baggers. But in the first week finals, from a neutrals perspective, what game is the game that you're looking at and thinking, yeah, this has like match of the year potential around that. Obviously, we had a couple of very entertaining finals last time out. Personally, I'm looking towards Thursday night. And I'm thinking I think by the agreeing nods, I can assume that you two will have the similar answer to me. But yeah, I think that qualifying final, that first qualifying final, to me, it will shape the premiership. I think whoever wins on Thursday will win the premiership. A little bit of a spoiler for another talk
Woohoo.
point we have later on. But yeah, I think whoever wins Thursday night will put themselves in a very good position to win it all. You avoid Brisbane or Port Adelaide in a away fashion in the prelim, and you stay in Melbourne for the whole finals, which is very, very crucial. Cal, I'm assuming you're going to agree and say the qualifying final is the game, but yeah, what are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, word for word what you just said. I've actually also written down whoever wins Thursday night will probably win the premiership. It's going to be hard to beat Collingwood or Melbourne when they host the prelim and the grand final. That is going to be really, really tough. And who knows, they might match up against each other in the grand final again. But strictly that game is the highlight of the weekend.
Yeah, Brando, I assume the agreeing nod before you echo the thoughts?
100%. It's the game to watch, and I don't necessarily think that the winner of that game will win the premiership like you two think, and we'll obviously talk about that later. But I think being able to obviously lock in that home prelim at the MCG and avoiding the other side where you'd have to play potentially Brisbane or Port away from home is huge. And then it's also the momentum carrying through as well. So if it got to a point where the D's and the Pies end up playing each other again at the MCG, having that earlier win against the other team would be absolutely huge going into grand final day. So yeah, I think that's easily the game to watch and the most crucial game of the lot this Thursday night.
Yeah, it's going to be a game that's going to be under a lot of pressure. The tackle count's going to be high, you know that for sure, and the pressure around that game is going to be immense. And of course, finals time, there's no greater pressure like there is in finals, and there's going to be some teams and some players who are under a little bit more pressure than others. What do you guys think when it comes to teams and players under the most pressure heading into finals? Because we saw obviously obviously last year probably the storyline heading into the final series was someone like a Gary Rowan. Was he able to step up in a finals campaign, and he showed in that qualifying final against Collingwood to kick that big goal late on and gave the goal assist to win Geelong that game. Which set them pretty well into going on to win that flag. Brandon, I'll start with you. What do a team and a player, or either or both, that are under the most amount of pressure heading into what's going to be a very intense month of football?
Yeah, I think it's the Brisbane Lions, and everyone talks about them. They've been in and around it for so long, and there's always that big thing hanging over their head of playing away from home, playing at the MCG specifically. They're going to have to do it eventually if they go all the way, obviously. And I think they're in a very good spot where they've got this home final now. They could potentially lock in a home prelim in doing so. Can they beat someone like a Collingwood or a Melbourne or a Carlton or even a Port Adelaide if they get through on the other side at the MCG? We'll have to wait and see. But I think that's where most of their pressure comes from. Doing that with their backs against the wall, a lot of criticism in front of them. I think it's going to be very interesting. And I think they've probably got the most pressure given the window that they're in. They've been in finals so many years. How many more years can they be up there? But yeah, I think it's the Brisbane Lions for me.
I think that's a potentially will be a popular answer. They've been knocking on the door for quite a while. Cal, what do you think on the similar subject?
I'm agreeing again. I've got the Brisbane Lions as well. It's getting to a point where like they have to start winning in September because it's getting a little bit late now. We've alluded to that, Ari will allude to sooner, that Brisbane, their finals run in past years have been pretty poor. They've gone straight sets a few times, often with 2 home games, which is a bit scary for them. But this year, I do feel as though they're more settled now. They're a bit more mature. If they win Saturday night, it sets up the most ideal run for them to get into the grand final. And then, as Brandon alluded to, winning at the MCG is their curse. If they can win Saturday, win a prelim, just get to the MCG and have one good game, that'll just please all Lions fans.
Yeah, I think it's the most pressing storyline coming into this year's finals, considering the track record that they've got. Yeah, like you said, I will allude to right now Brisbane's finals record because they have gone straight sets. They have gone straight sets twice ever since they bursted into the top 8/top 4 in 2019, and I think it's a good segue onto the potential topic of a team going straight sets. 4 out of the last 5 years, we've seen a team go out in straight sets. 2 of them, of course, were Brisbane. You had Melbourne last year, and you had Hawthorn back in 2018. Cal, I'll stay with you. Do you think we'll see one of the top 4 go out in straight sets? And if so, who? Because it's going to be the top 4 has been strong all year. It has been a pretty good, strong top 4 that's been pretty settled for the majority of the year. But will we see a team go straight sets? And if so, who would that team be?
Well, I'm going to go no. I think the top 4 will all make the prelim. But if there was a team to do it, I've got a feeling it'll be Collingwood. And that's probably a bit hard to say, being top of the ladder. But I feel as though Melbourne can beat them. And then assuming Carlton beat Sydney, Collingwood semi-final would firstly break Melbourne.
Yeah.
But if Carlton are certainly capable of beating Collingwood, I can see the Pies going out in straight sets. I don't think they will, but if there's going to be a team, for me, it's Collingwood.
Well, that's that
I
won't
know
cause any
it's yeah,
controversy.
no.
Yeah, it would be obviously there's not been a team that's finished first that's gone out in straight sets in the history of the final series being formulated in the way that it has. It would be a first, and we all know, like, removing all bias, we all know the Collingwood track record in finals is kind of another talking point, another storyline that will be very ever present heading into September. Obviously, they've been the best team all year by a country mile, so coming into September, losing what 4 out of their last 5 games. Brando, do you hold a similar opinion with Collingwood? Do you see another team potentially going straight sets, if any?
I think I also sit with Cal in the sense that I don't think any of the four are going to go out in straight sets if I had to put my money on it. But yeah, look, I don't think it'll be Port or Brisbane. I think if St Kilda or GWS win and they go and play either of those teams away from home, I can't see them getting over the top there. If anyone goes out, it'll be probably Collingwood or Melbourne. Obviously, we've seen. Well, this is assuming Carlton beat Sydney. I don't know if Sydney can beat either of those teams at the G, but if Carlton beats Sydney and go to play Collingwood or Melbourne away at the MCG, I think we've seen Carlton beat both those teams this year in huge games, and it's another massive game that I think Carlton could definitely do a job in. But I'm probably leaning towards no at this stage.
Yeah, it's really weird because obviously we all know Collingwood's quality, and almost finishing first has somehow developed into a curse for them because they're versing a team in Melbourne who have beaten them this year, and the scoreline says that it was a close win, but Melbourne really dominated for a lot of that game, and obviously Carlton, which regardless of the form and regardless of the history, obviously Collingwood won comfortably the first time out. Colin won comfortably the first time out, and obviously Carl won the second time out. But if it's a Carl Collingwood game in a final, anything goes. And then also Sydney, who we all know 12 months ago, or as close to 12 months ago as you can get, we all know what happened then. So I mean, Collingwood supporters will be looking at this September thinking it could either be the best, one of the best Septembers they've ever had because of what they potentially should do, but what they could do potentially bodes an even more extreme nightmare, which will be very interesting to see. If we're gonna like transport in a sense, or kind of go all the way to the final day in September. If we're going to give I wouldn't say like an early prediction because I feel like I have a pretty good idea of what the finals could look like, or what the grand final could look like. I want you both to give me a grand final prediction, both teams, and a winner. Can't sit on the fence. And also, I'll ask for a Norm Smith medalist as well. So, Brandon, we'll start with you. What do you reckon for the last day in September?
Yeah. Well, I think, firstly, I do think the Melbourne are going to win tomorrow night, and that probably sets up what I think is going to happen. They'll book a home prelim, and I think they'll get in. And on the other side, I think Brisbane get in. So it'll be Brisbane, Melbourne. The big thing with this one is Melbourne probably go in the favourite, given it's at the MCG. They probably have the wood over Brisbane there. But I also think that kind of thing goes out the window on grand final day. I think if Brisbane are, as Cal said, they're settled, they're more mature. It looks like a more well-structured team, and I think if they just play their way, they could easily beat Melbourne on grand final day, and I think that's what's going to happen. I said at the start of the year, Brisbane, Melbourne, and I said Brisbane with the grand final. I'm going to stick with it now, so I'll say Brisbane by 10 points. Norm Smith, it's probably going to be Dunkley or Neil, so I'll say Hugh McCluggage.
Very good. Very good.
I
Very
like
good.
Isaac Smith, just from the wing, 30 touches, couple of goals, takes home Norm.
Very silky player, Hugh McCluggage. Cal, what have you got?
I mean, I've gone the same route in Melbourne and Brisbane. I think Melbourne win against the Pies. Same for Brisbane against Port, and it sets up the easiest run into the grand final. But I've got Melbourne being a bit too strong on the day. I think they're going to have a very similar September run to their premiership year, and they just dominate all their games. Maybe not as by much, but I think they'll just be a class above every opponent they come up against. And for the Norm Smith, I've gone a bit more boring than Hugh McCluggage. I've gone with Clayton Oliver. I think the obvious answer was maybe Petrarca going 2 for 2, but Clayton Oliver, I think, coming back off the injury, will go whooshka and just clean up grand final day.
Very nice. I think it's only fair that I give mine. I've asked for both of yours, so I think I'll give mine. I've got like you both. very unoriginal. I've got a Melbourne Brisbane grand final. I do think Melbourne will scrape through over Collingwood on Thursday night and get a much needed week's break because of how physically demanding that game will be. And I've got Brisbane beating Collingwood in the prelim in a very, very hard and contested and a very tough game, similar to the prelim that Collingwood versus against GWS in 2019. That's what I've got. Maybe not in terms of like conditions and scoreline and dramatics, but just that hard, intense game. And I think a similar kind of result will happen. Brisbane would have played their grand final. They would have put all their eggs in that basket of winning that prelim and go into the game against Melbourne, not at their peak, not primed, and Melbourne will come in and win. I wouldn't say comfortably, but they'll win relatively easily and not be too stressed about it. I'll go Melbourne by 34 points. And like obviously the obviously your Olivers, your Petrarcas, but a little bit left field. I'll go Bailey Fritsch for the Norm Smith medal. I think if he can get a hold of Harris Andrews and the other Brisbane key backs with the service that will be provided from him from that very, very industrious midfield, I'm thinking a 4 or 5 goal haul for Bailey Fritsch. And I mean, I think he kicked 6 in the game against the Dogs and didn't win it. So maybe second time lucky for Fritsch. Kick 4 or 5, potentially even 6 if he's lucky, and take home Norm. So we're all going to be right in some respect, or we're all going to be wrong. Neither of us are going to be. Neither of us are going to. Either all of us are going to be wrong, or all of us are going to be right, which is going to be interesting. Come when we look back at this in a couple of weeks' time. Looking at it from a more holistic perspective, looking at it from a finals kind of overall avenue, what do you guys think in terms of finals MVP? Obviously, it's a medal awarded every year for the best player across the final series. Carl, I'll start with you. Are you going to carry on with your kind of Norm Smith wins the finals MVP road, or are you going to go a little bit different?
No, I'm going to go a little bit different. I feel as though the most important piece to Brisbane's road to the grand final will be Josh Dunkley. I feel like if he isn't at his best, Brisbane aren't going to be at their best, and it could hold larger ramifications for the Lions. I don't think it will, because I've got them in the grand final, but I feel as though Josh Dunkley holds such an importance in that midfield that he will, alongside Lachie Neale, just tear up opposition midfields, ultimately winning the finals MVP, call it. But come grand final day, just don't think it'll be enough.
Very good, Brando. What do you got?
This is very good because I've gone the opposite way to what Cal's gone. So I've gone with Clayton Oliver in Melbourne's midfield. Obviously, they're going to play the same amount of games as Brisbane if my prediction goes the way I'm expecting it to go. And I think much like what Cal said for Josh Dunkley, I think Clayton Oliver is so important and so dominant in that Melbourne midfield setup. And I think without him fit and firing, I think it's going to be very hard for them to firstly beat Collingwood on Thursday night, but also to go that far in finals. I think he's absolutely crucial. So for me, I think he'll probably be in and around it.
Very good, very good. I'll go a little bit left field. I'll try and change something up. I won't go for a player that would have played in a grand final, but a player that will play the equal amount of games, and that is Scott Pendlebury. I think he will just, in his swan song, maybe not his last year, but one of his years in the twilight of his career, he'll play the 3 games if the kind of fixture falls in the way that I think it will. And despite 2 of those games being losses, I don't think those losses will be losses where you can't give the losing team, like you can't give any of those players any votes or any credit. I think there'll be losses, but very tight losses that could have gone either way. And I think Pendlebury off half back through the middle will just remind everyone that he's a champion of the game and be one last accolade in a very storied and rich or accolade rich career. So yeah, Scott Pendlebury, a little bit left field, probably won't happen, but it would be good to see.
It's a good call. It's a good bold call.
It's a good call. Yeah. I think that is it for us today. We've given a broad prediction. Just quickly, nerves heading into Friday night. Just quickly
through the roof.
It's the unknown around Carlton as a whole in finals. Obviously, we haven't been in since I was 12 years old, so it's interesting. I'm feeling good, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see.
Optimistic.
Yeah, slightly pessimistic, I reckon. You never know. You never know. I think this video might come back to bite us, but oh well, it is what it is. So yes, thank you all very much for watching. Brando and Cal, thank you very much for joining me. Make sure you leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Who do you think? Give your responses to all the questions and all the predictions that have been posed in this video. Make sure you subscribe to the House of Footy YouTube channel, the home of your footy fix. Like the video. See you guys next time, and goodbye.